Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Layer by Layer, the show about 3D printing and our place inside the industry. Today, we're going to talk about cleat covers, Shopify, and how the 3D printing industry is a trillion-dollar industry. But before that, let's go ahead and pay the bills. This episode is brought to you by TangledFilament.com. Tangled Filament is our attempt to bring down the cost of 3D printing filament in order to enable the mass adoption of 3D printing through low-cost materials. So far, we started out at $22. We've brought it down to $15, and we're going on our way to $10. Right now, Tangled Filament is available on the website using reused spools. You can have any color you want, so long as it's black. So get yourself some Tangled PLA black filament today at tangledfilament.com. Yeah, black is back in stock and shipping immediately. And it is on reused cardboard spools right now. Our our spool supplier, ironically, their mold broke and they're not able to produce the spools for us, and it's caused a delay. So we're using reused spools temporarily here. Radical twist of fate. Anyhow, going into the news here. 3D printing industry hype Soul bridges the gap between sports and streetwear with its new Cleat Guards. This is per 3dprinting.com. Sports footwear company Hype Soul has introduced what it claims to be the first ever 3D printed athletic cleat guards, named Title 3D Elite. Developed with Carbon's digital light synthesis tech, they are priced at $75. The Title 3D Elite cleat guards are available in two colors, calcite hex and onyx hex, with 10 unisex sizes. These guards can be purchased exclusively at Hype Soul's website with a custom unisex size, sizes. Additionally, the cleat guards are constructed using Carbon's elastomeric polyurethane, a 40% bio-based material known for its performance compared to traditional thermoplastic urethanes, says the company. Okay, cleat guards. If you've ever played football, soccer, football, or baseball, or any other cleat-based sport, non-indoor sport, basically, cleats, it's got spikes on the bottom. You're walking around. You cannot walk on grounds or pavement or concrete or anything else, or else you ruin your cleats. So cleat guards are basically a cover that the spikes can go into and keep the cleats from damaging themselves and other things. This is nifty because this is an example of an accessory for an existing product. Does this uniquely need to be 3D printed? I don't know. But at $75, I think that's reasonable. So 3D printing is obviously an economical way of doing it, because if they're selling them for $75, they have to be producing them for about $25 in order to be economically viable. And that's good margins and good ratios and that kind of thing. And if they're able to get those produced with digital light synthesis, good on them. Carbon has made a whole mess of shoes. They should be able to make shoe covers. As to why they wouldn't be molded or not, well, quite frankly, they just look really cool. They have a really neat lattice design and that kind of thing, and printing allows for the creation of that. So they look like a really premium product. They're not too expensive. They solve a problem, and yeah, they're great. And it's for a start. I don't know who Hype Soul is. I'm going to assume that they're a startup. So using 3D printing is a way for them to ramp up without having to worry about a lot of other shenanigans and that kind of stuff. So I think that's good. There is not much other news inside of 3D printing this week. For some reason, it's been a really dead week, even though IMTS has been going on. There hasn't been any big 3D printing announcements. Markforged has a new machine, but Markforged introduced a new machine. It's able to print in carbon composites and in metal. That's not really news. Somebody brought out a new machine. We don't really cover that in news. That's not really significantly news. Everybody's always coming out with a new machine. There's 20 bajillion new machines every week. So anyhow, any other news? There's not really any other news. Like, I wish there was more. We released the Shopify app, but we're going to talk about that. Okay, other news, not a whole lot, not a lot of business scuttlebutt, not a lot of stock scuttlebutt. Nobody's gone out of business. Velo 3D has been getting into trouble. They got whacked with their new earnings results, which is kind of news, but everybody also knew that was going to happen. So they're still restructuring and trying to keep from going bankrupt, but not a lot of news. A lot of it is updates to existing stories, which are not terribly interesting. Okay, so that's the news for the industry. Now, going into product updates. Tangled. Kind of covered this already. We just PLA Black is back in stock. We had a delay there because of spools and stuff that were holding up orders. Like I said, the standard spool that we use for Tangled, and the reason we use a standard spool is so that it is standard and you guys can rely upon it. That spool was delayed because the mold that makes that spool, not our mold, it is our supplier's mold. They are supposed to be able to make these spools. They apparently don't keep them in stock hardly at all. They have a freaking 4-week lead time. But their mold broke. A pin in the mold broke, which is delaying shipment of the order by a number of days. So we continually store used spools that we have inside of our print farm. We don't want to really continue to use used spools in Tangled filament because it's unpredictable. It hurts the product quality to not know what spool is coming on because you don't know if it's going to fit in the AMS or on a spool or whatever else it was. So we have our standard spools, which do not fit in the AMS, so don't use them there. We're dealing with that with the spoolless version. Problems everywhere. But the Tangled filament is back in stock. We're using reused spools to kind of stopgap this so that people aren't waiting anymore. And we're working with it. They're sealed, they're clean, there's all the stuff. They're cardboard spools. I think most of them were actually Overture spools because we had a client who needed a color that only Overture was making. So we had a bunch of those laying around. But it's our PLA on it, so make sure that you're printing at a higher temperature, especially if you're doing high speed and all the things. We will be doing a reduced price drop, probably early September, where there will be a limited quantity for reduced pricing. This is not a sale. This is a batch production to where we can save a couple dollars by just getting it all out at once. And it will also have an extended lead time. So normally we try to ship a product in about 3 days or so. This stuff will have a ship date in the middle of September, likely. Again, all this is loose. But you will be able to effectively pre-order it. It will ship on that date. And for that ease of production, there will be a discount on it. Basically, since we know we're doing that big batch in such a way all at once, we can just schedule it all out. So it's just very efficient and there's no switching deals. But Tangled starting in November will kind of become unavailable. We may do some partnerships with people to have some stuff available, but it's not. Yeah, we don't have a lot of stuff. That's Tangled. We're working on spoolless. We really want to get spoolless. We just had to buy a bunch more spools. We want to get to spoolless as much ourselves. But spoolless just has all the problems with spoolless. And the biggest problem with spoolless is that it's just labor intensive. And we haven't refined the process, and we don't have time to refine the process because we have to focus on what our actual business is. We run big print farms. And this week we had a big old product launch. So we're not working on spoolless right at the moment. Tangled is a community good that we do. It's not necessarily a big business driver for us. It is something that we think is necessary to do in order to reduce the cost of raw materials and also to kind of put a stake in the ground for U.S. manufacturing that doesn't have to wave the flag of U.S. manufacturing and say, we're more expensive because we're in the States. No, we're just, here's the price. We're in the States. Good for us. That's what we're going for with Tangled. But other priorities. Etsy. The Etsy app, we pulled the stats on this, and I've been observing the stats of this for a while. The Etsy and all of our digital products are growing at 5% per week, which if you're new to software development apps and that kind of stuff, that is quite good. It is not exceptional, but it is quite good, especially for an application that is manufacturing based. It's very, very good. It's from our expectations, it's very, very good of what we thought these apps would end up doing. But yeah, things like the Etsy and the API are growing 5% week over week. We are scaling capacity and making sure that we're taking care of everybody and all the rest of it. But yeah, just getting a lot of utilization. It is possible that come Christmas time, we will have to suspend new users. It is possible, not definite, but possible. We're doing all we can to prepare to make sure that that is not the case. But we have to make sure that anybody who is using the system is able to get it reliably. There's all that. Shopify. The Shopify launch happened earlier this week. And yes, we kind of announced it secretly here on the other podcast, but plenty of y'all were apparently waiting for it. It's been a great response with the launch of the Shopify. And thank you all who have been engaged with that. And I want to say publicly thanks to the team, too, for working on that. It's been several months of work getting that out the door, getting used to the new Shopify API. A side comment, Shopify has changed all their rules in the last year. So it was more cumbersome than we originally anticipated. But the app is very good. It has all the learnings from the Etsy, so it's just very solid. And it's very, even though it's the initial launch, it's not really necessarily an MVP. It's a very complete product. It is the Etsy app in its current form revamped to move over in Shopify. We're excited about the reason we did Shopify is because Shopify is a different group of users. Etsy is very 3D printing close users. Somebody who has 10 printers in their garage and they want to scale up even more are very often kind of the Etsy users customer stereotype. But Shopify, the goal with this is to make 3D printing effectively invisible, to where it's a resource and it's a unique way of manufacturing and fulfillment of products. So people who have been working in print on demand or have existing e-commerce stores and that kind of thing will be able to get a value add from this that they've never been able to get before. And hopefully it creates a competitive advantage in industries outside of 3D printed stuff. Yes, we're 3D printing things, but we expect it to be more of an enabler more than actually like the key product. And we're excited because these industries that otherwise wouldn't engage with 3D printing are now able to do it. And literally one of the biggest reasons for that is just the fact that we ship within the week. Orders from Etsy, Shopify, any of the rest of them all ship out in 3 to 5 days. And this is the first time that any print farm API has ever done that. Everyone from, I can talk about Shapeways now. Shapeways had a 3 weeks lead time. Any of the other APIs have a 3-week lead time for custom parts. We're the only 3D printing service bureau that can plug into your store very seamlessly and ship in a couple of days. That's a big, big deal. And we're sure it's going to be a big enabler for all kinds of people outside of the industry. Because this is a big deal. This is what 3D printing needs, is to not be the 3D printing industry. It needs to be an enabler of the manufacturing and plastics industry. And then all kinds of cool things start to happen. Other announcement, Christmas is coming soon. I think we did a whole video on this announcing this. Like, seriously, Christmas season started last week. So if any production clients are like watching right now, like we are this close to being almost fully booked for the rest of the season. We're getting the wheels be a turning because everybody's prepping for Christmas right now, which is too late. You should be prepping like 4 months ago. But everybody always preps right now. And then when we get to like November, December, there's just giant spikes. And of course, we got to support all our existing systems. So there's like Christmas be coming. If you need anything right now, you're squeezing in through the cracks, even right at this moment. So FYI to everybody on that. Third YouTube channel. We have a third YouTube channel. There is 3D print on demand. With the launch of the Shopify and the maturation of the Etsy, the videos that we need to make about those can't really fit on the Slant 3D channel because they're focused at kind of a slightly different audience. They're more businessy focused, and they'll also be focused kind of outside of exclusively 3D printing. So we're going to create basically this triumvirate of Slant 3D channels. You have Tangled Testing, which is about materials, kind of hard science analysis, evaluation of stuff for people who really want to get into the nitty-gritty about how things work, and setting standards and just getting data and information out there, just the purest form of information. They're less entertainment. They're really about the information. Then you have the Slant 3D channel, which is largely about engineering design, the industry in general, cool demonstrations of how 3D printing can work. This is the flagship channel where we're showing how great 3D printing is and what it can do inside of the world. And then you have 3D print on demand, which is going to be the more businessy print on demand kind of a channel where we'll talk about Facebook ads and how does selling a t-shirt compare to selling a 3D printed part, how to set up an Etsy store, big old long live streams of connecting your Shopify app to the Shopify store, where to find cool files. Those kind of things will go on 3D print on demand channel. So those, this way we can kind of split the content, and the people who are interested in kind of business and promotion and marketing can go to 3D print on demand. People who are interested in the science and the details and the nit grit can go to Tangled. And then everybody else who is here coming along for the ride, to 1 million subscribers, can ride here in Slant 3D. So, and hopefully we maintain the quality of content and the style of content on Slant 3D, to where like even product announcements around like Shopify and Etsy can go over to the 3D print on demand without kind of disrupting flow. Because like the Slant 3D channel is meant to be an entertaining way of showing how cool 3D printing is and what can be done. Because many people don't realize the engineering solutions or the scale that printing can do. And that's really where our niche is. Because like we do mass production printing, but now we do print on demand, and we've got materials and all the rest of these kind of things. So these different channels will serve these different purposes. What will be the production schedule over there? No idea. No idea at all right now. Tangled is getting into a rhythm of about 1 video a week. We might go to like 1.5 or 2, because there's certain videos around testing style and certain general information that can be shared over there on Tangled Testing. So subscribe over there if you want to see testing data around different materials. This week we have black PLAs. We tested a bunch of the black PLAs, like PLA Pro and PLA Plus and matte PLA and blah, blah, blah. And it was very interesting. So as compared to like the pure Tangled, and I don't bring that up to like plug ourselves, but like Tangled filament is pure white driven snow filament. So we know exactly what is in it, and we don't know what is in anybody else's material. And that is why we use Tangled as a baseline, because we actually know what was thrown in the recipe over there. But yeah, three separate channels now. I recommend checking out 3D Print on Demand. Hopefully we have a link down in the description. Okay. We are going to do FAQs about the Shopify app here at the end of the podcast for anybody who are looking for follow-ups to that. But skip to the end on that. But we're going to do regular discussion topic here, because that's the FAQs can be for the people can skip there in the chapters. Okay. Discussion topic. How much can the 3D printing industry grow? Okay. So this has been mentioned in passing multiple times before on the show, because of the we look at the research reports and that kind of stuff, and that most of the research reports are wrong, but they presume that 3D printing will be worth about $35 to $50 billion in the next 10 years, by like 2030, 2035-ish. Some of them put it on the outside at like 100 billion. Some of them are saying like 35 billion. And currently we're about a $20 billion industry. But you have some ambitious ones like ARK Invest that are like, oh, it's going to be a $500 billion industry. All of those are conservative. ARK Invest doesn't understand the manufacturing industry. Everybody else doesn't understand the breadth that 3D printing can and will have. Because they look at what has been and then they project forward, which is a bad way of doing it. 3D printing has the potential to be a $1 trillion market. The reason I know this is because right now, molded plastic products are a multi-trillion-dollar market. And I know that about 70 to 80% of current plastic products could be produced with the current state-of-the-art of 3D printing. Current state-of-the-art of like FDM printing, actually. All of them could be produced cost-effectively, at scale, in the same volumes as that. Now, will it happen immediately? No. There need to be more mega farms built. But it's doable. There's no reason that it's not achievable. Knowing that is the addressable market of 3D printing. Not the 3D printing industry. Not, oh, you've got dental, and I'm going to start 3D printing metal parts, and you're going to sell the consumer machines to the nerds or something like that. No, it's not that. Those are the existing skews and directions that printing goes, and they will grow at some rate, but they're not all that we've got. We can do all of plastic. All of anything plastic can be done with printing, which means that it can be an enormous industry so long as people want to address it. The 3D printing industry itself has a tremendous issue with not getting off its own back. It's very tribal, and it's very kind of small-minded about ways of doing things to where, No, we're not going to do that this podcast. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of the 3D printing industry / community. But the industry is in its own way. We'll just say that. There's been all of this focus on kind of an engineering-led approach of we need to create better and better machines, and then that will create a product-led growth cycle where the machines will get better and customers will buy more machines and the machines will get better. But the problem has been is that the customers purchase the machines and they don't know what to do with them. There's precious few companies out there who have a bunch of 3D printers and are producing final products with those 3D printers. Very few, like a dozen. We've featured most of them on this YouTube channel already. Very proudly. We love showing off what everybody else is doing. But there is so much more that could be done. And part of the thing slowing it down is a lack of confidence in 3D printing and historically a lack of scale because no one's been willing to pony up. Because printing has always been a prototyping technology, which is really high margin and very low volume. Everybody in the last 3 to 4 years has been talking about production, but they're going about it wrong. They're trying to commoditize themselves quickly, and they're not creating the value or not retaining enough value and creating enough value for the customer. Because the customer is going to say, well, I can buy a great big injection molding machine that I really understand and has 100 years of expertise behind it, or I can buy a really big 3D printing machine, which is brand new, and the company's probably going to go out of business in the next 6 months. Which one should I buy? That is the situation that the industry is in right now, is that it's very unstable for customers to invest in this technology. By the way, this is part of the reason for us going like the direction of the service rather than the direction of like the machine reseller. We as a service, any of our users can use us and then potentially find another service provider. But they don't have to deal with depreciation. They don't have to deal with machines going out of date. And if we go out of business, it's unhandy, but there's ways to get around it. Or they could go back to molding or something like that. They didn't have tremendous investment. They had to buy their parts, and then they got their parts. And that's good. They didn't have to build a factory to do it. But, so that's kind of the roundabout of why 3D printing can be big. But that's only in the manufacturing context. What everyone is missing is that 3D printing is not solely a manufacturing technology. It's not only a manufacturing technology. That is what it looks like. That is the first iteration of it. But as we've like built the apps, like the Etsy app and that kind of stuff, and even within the context of what we do as a warehouse where the shelves make the product, well, in that name right there is the other industry. 3D printing is a warehousing technology, a magical Doctor Who level warehousing technology. It's bigger on the inside. We can create, with things like the Shopify app and Etsy and the rest of it, someone can create a store with infinite selection and zero inventory. That's bananas. That was not possible 5 years ago. But you can literally have an AI-generated something or another cranking out tens of millions of designs or cranking out designs on demand for some user. And then the user gets that product. That has never been possible before. But it's enabled by the fact that we don't have warehouses, we don't have inventory, and you're able to print and ship a part in a couple of days. So 3D printing is eating into the warehousing industry, as well as enabling this whole new business model of just infinite selection, which no one has really, that hasn't sunk in for a lot of folks yet. And man, once it does, good heavens, it'll be a huge thing. But there's the warehousing, but then lastly, there is the fulfillment component of it. 3D printing is also a fulfillment technology. It is a teleportation technology. Because not only do we make the thing, but we make it closer to the point of consumption than anybody else. I do not endorse home 3D printing. That will never be a thing. But localized factories that are able to produce the demand for that area, absolutely a thing. Like, this is part of our strategy at Slant 3D for a long, long time. We're going to build 3 more mega farms inside the States. We got to get Austin, then East Coast, and then we might bounce back to West Coast, or we might do 2 East Coast. That's still in the air. And then a couple of international. And what's amazing about that is that anyone who designed a product over here, who would traditionally manufacture it over here and then ship it across an ocean, doesn't have to do that. They design the product, they verify it, and then they upload it. And then wherever the customer is, the farm closest to that customer will grow that part and ship it to the customer. So you reduce emissions, you eliminate the size of the fulfillment networks that are necessary. So the industry of fulfillment, the industry of warehousing, and the industry of manufacturing are all vertically absorbed into 3D printing, which also adds to the size of the industry. So we got like $1 trillion of plastic parts that we can make. Then we can take, like, I don't know, probably another 500 billion of transport costs because we don't have to have them on ships moving across oceans anymore. And then, I don't know, another 100 billion of warehousing expenses because we don't have to have a warehouse anymore. You have a 3D printing mega farm that acts like a warehouse where the shelves make the product. And that warehouse makes the product close to where the customer is going to use it. This is why 3D printing is way bigger than what anybody realizes. And if the industry could just get out of this stupid little fixed pie mentality and just realizing that printing is an enabling technology that grows the pie just so massively. And in the context of growing the pie, since it's now 0 cost to start manufacturing, because again, our Shopify app, you can set it up for nothing. It cost $9 for the subscription because we had to have a sign-up fee. $9. And you are able to manufacture 1 or 10,000 parts. No mold, no shipping, no logistics agents, no figuring out forwarding, no transport fees, no talking different languages, none of this stuff. You create the model you want. When that model looks good, you say go, and then people can buy it from you. That is flippin' magical, wildly efficient, and just paradigm shifting. That everybody should be excited about this. And I've said it before, we need a lot more print farms. Go crazy. Like, there is such a huge opportunity here that the idea of like competition is ridiculous because there's so much opportunity that it's ridiculous. It's just there's a winner can't possibly take it all. And in the context of us being the only print farm standing right now, I really dislike being the only guy around because you're automatically the bastard. And it's very much not fun when, since you're the only option, you're the best and the worst option at the same time. I would love to have somebody to compete against so that they could be really good over there and suck at another thing, and we're really good over here and suck at another thing, and we complement each other because it A, helps the industry because there's options, customers are happier because they get to switch between 2 people, and we're happier because we don't have to take all the flack for everything all the time. But is what it is, and we'll keep on going because this has to be done. This is so exciting. Like, the Shopify app, at a very fundamental level, is really satisfying because even more than like the Etsy app, Etsy has a bunch of weirdness to where it's kind of like a lot of effort to do, but Shopify has all the systems in place. A kid in Africa with a laptop and Tinkercad, which is free, can model up some reasonable product. Here's how you organize your ping pong paddles, whatever it happens to be. This is a trowel that's really good for digging a hole for your garden seeds, something like that. He can create a Shopify store, connect it to our system, and he's able to sell that item in the United States and earn a living off of his work and his design work. As a mechanical engineer, that's stupidly satisfying because that does for inventors what smartphones did for app developers. It just gave you so much more room to run and so many more customers. And you don't have the upfront cost. All you have to have is the idea and the design, and you can upload it and you can go. And that's wildly exciting and enabling and world flattening in so many different ways. And if you can learn how to make a good product and push on those things and learn how to market it and all the rest of it, the cost of creating that product is effectively zero, which means that so many cool products can be created, so much new wealth and opportunity can be created. This is just it's a really big deal because physical stuff has always been really expensive to get started. And a guy has stuff and I don't have stuff, and this causes contention. But now the ability to make stuff is so low cost, and the barrier to entry is so low. And getting lower, well, it's free. Somebody buys it from you and then it's made. It's like, you can't get better than that. It's wildly exciting. So yeah, the industry has a ton to go on, and there's so many new things to be built. There's still AI generated 3D models to get made. There's 50 million really good product designs out there that are optimized for printing already that aren't being sold to a general population. So hopefully those designers can start doing that so that normal people can get a hold of these really nifty gadgets that everybody with 3D printing gets a hold of. Like, I organize my fly fishing things exactly like this with my little custom 3D printed box. I'm like, but put that box, make it available for all the other fishermen. Think how many of those boxes you could sell. Now I'm going to sell to file guys with 3D printers. That's so much smaller. There's 1 million people with 3D printers. There are billions. Well, there's not billions. There's 10 million people with woodshop tools. So it's a better industry. There's so much more opportunity out there if printing has scale and ease of access, which we're doing our best to make available. Normal people haven't even started to consume 3D printed parts. And yet, fidget dragons are a fairly sizable industry. Might disappear after a moment, but still a sizable industry. They're kind of like fidget spinners back in 2016, but they'll come and they'll go. But they're still big. Anyway, but yeah, the opportunity of 3D printing is enormous, and it's going to get bigger. So, all right. Shopify FAQs that have come up here in the last little while. So these are questions that we have been asked so far of the Shopify app. Number one question: do you provide pricing for the file that is up for a file before I have to sign up? You have to get in the Shopify app. You upload a file, and it immediately gives you pricing on that file. That is the pricing to print it and put it into a box. That does not include shipping. Shipping is billed at the time of shipment, because if I ship it 2 miles, it's a different price than if we ship 2,000 miles or international or anything like that. So we can't give you a shipping estimate because a customer someplace hasn't bought it yet. But as soon as you upload a file, you get a price to print that file. Do you handle post-processing? Yes, of course. Within reason. Here's kind of like the training of our post-processing people. If you upload a giant monster curly dragon that is impossible to print with FDM and just is an egg of support and requires an egg of support, we have instructed our staff to say, ship that as is, especially if it's the first time around, because you gotta learn. There are certain parts like garbage in, garbage out. We cannot print everything reliably, and it's not sustainable for us to accept a bad print and do 3 hours of work on it for a $2 print and then ship it out, because you'll order it again, and then it's just this unsustainable thing where we're subsidizing you. So we have instructed our production staff to be, if it's unreasonable amount of post-processing, leave it be, so that the designer can get their sample back and get the feedback back and realize, oh, I need to redesign this part to be more manufacturable. So this is kind of the double-edged sword of the thing. But every part that comes through does have support removed, is inspected for quality, layer shifts, sagging, that kind of stuff, problems with first layer, the general things about 3D printing, making sure seam is straight, all the stuff. That is all part of it. We've done on the pages, like if you want to see like print quality and colors and that kind of stuff, we're doing ducks. Ducks are our new mascot for all of these apps. They're the demo print that we do. It's a very old file from 2013 that was kind of our homage to past 3D printing. It's based off of that file. But you can see the print quality of what we expect to ship. If you throw in garbage will be shipped because there's nothing we can do about it. Or if you print something that's like a millimeter stock that sticks straight in the air, it's never going to print. In the situations where it doesn't print, we will try to cancel and refund the order. If it's a bad part that prints out and just requires a bunch of support, we're going to send the negative feedback because it's $10. You got to learn your lessons. That's cheaper in college. That's kind of the way we're going about it. We don't want to screw anybody. We want to do as best we can for everyone. But like, You cannot learn if there is not the negative feedback. But the best recommendation I would make, though, with supports and post-processing is do designed supports. You can use a number of different tools to create auto-generated tree supports that are then printed and can be broken off. You can design supports directly into CAD, and we have videos talking about that. Make sure they're labeled as removable, because if it's part of the core 3D model, there's a hesitation. And this even applies to like mouse ears, because like mouse ears are part of the model. We know they're removable, but if you like make them thick or something, then we're like, oh, those are feet. Those are not mouse ears and that kind of stuff. So there's a line here. Watch all of our videos about how to design this stuff correctly so that it implies what it's about. If you have support, put a label on it that says like remove this or something like that. That's good. But yes, we process all parts that come through. That was a long answer that is roundabout, but yeah. Do you ship internationally? Yes, we do. We have international shipping supporting right now, currently both in the Etsy app and in the Shopify app. So yeah, ship it to wherever you want. With Shopify, it takes a little bit of configuration of the store to do shipping in general. You have to set us a fulfillment provider, all these kind of things. And Shopify has plenty of tutorials on it. We will have more tutorials coming out about configuration and that kind of stuff. Because Shopify just has a lot of rules that we are not able to automate. Like the team will tell you that I harped on certain parts of ease of use a lot, and they made parts of the app quite difficult. But we had to, because we were like, no, we can't have the user leave the app, go over here, tweak that switch, and then come back to the app and do this. That's terrible experience. Anything that we could automate, we automated. But there's still some configuration that Shopify requires and is locked off that we can't touch, so Shopify still requires it. But yes, you can ship international. Limits on files. No limits on files. They got to fit in an 8-inch cube, 0.2 resolution, 25% infill. It's PLA. We'll be releasing new materials soon, but right now it's PLA. If you don't see the material inside of the app, that material isn't available inside the app. And other materials will come sometime in the future. Let's see. Next question. Price, will the Etsy app start to have a fee? So yeah, the Shopify app costs $10 to sign up. We had to do this because of billing with Shopify. It simplified development, and quite frankly, from using the Etsy app, a lot of freeloaders using a lot of server space. So $9 is for the Shopify app to get plugged into your store. If you are too early for that, you're probably too early for the app. You should probably create a store with your personal 3D printer for a little bit and get it scaled up so that then the app becomes viable. But there was a component of server fees. Like the processing of 3D model files is quite expensive if people do not then slice and print some files. So the subscription fee for the Shopify app is $9. It was as small as we could get it made and be reasonable to cover server fees for that monster as people play around with stuff. The Etsy app will likely probably have a similar fee, or at very least a freemium model where there'll be like access to additional materials or something with a more premium version of the app. Just because we've got the servers ain't cheap, and keeping them up and running for people who just upload 200 megabit files to see what it's going to cost, it's very expensive. It's computationally expensive, and I get that, but and it's necessary, but you do need to be prepared to support the baseline operations of your business, because 2 years ago, before these apps, you would have paid $50,000 for the mold. And now it's $9 for the subscription for us to keep our servers on. So that is the reason for that decision. We are not trying to leverage more stuff. It creates the ability for us to maintain sustainability of the users that we have. So there may be additional fees coming to Etsy in the future as a baseline subscription for additional features. But right now it's free. For the foreseeable future and through this Christmas, it will most certainly be free. Okay, let's see. Custom packaging. No, we do not currently support custom packaging. Each item that is printed through the Shopify app or Etsy or API is put into a standard brown cardboard box, typically an 8x8 inch cardboard box, conveniently the exact same size as the build volume, slightly smaller than the build volume. But that's the standard size box, and a shipping label on top of it. So brown paper inside is the damping material, because paper is the most durable, it's not nasty peanuts, and it's most trainable, but protects fragile and delicate parts the best. So yes, there is that. Let's see here, custom packaging. Yep, someday we would like to do custom packaging at some point in the future, but it is a wildly difficult workflow, especially again with kind of smaller stores who like, here's 100 boxes, we need you to pull from these 100 boxes. It's another step in the process that can go wrong. And while it may be challenging to have your product be delivered in a standard brown box, it is way worse if it was accidentally delivered in a pink box of somebody else's store rather than your little blue box, because the guy that day had a bad day. So eliminating that potential error in the process is something we want to do. Third-party parts. Can you add in screws or heat sinks or bulbs or something? No. Currently, right now, you have to have a fully and finished 3D printed product. Done. There are no screws added. There are no little screw kits added. None of that stuff. That being said, this is something that has come up a bunch, and we know everybody wants it. So it's on roadmap, and we're figuring out how to do it. What it would probably be is effectively an additional product or part that's like a generic screw kit or like a night light bulb or something else. Excuse me. Whatever those items may be, or like plastic feet on the bottom, or like felt sticker tape or magnet or whatever it happens to be. Heat sinks or heat set inserts are almost impossible, because we have to have effectively a CAD design go in and then have people standing by to do this very eclectic feature. So that probably won't be an option. But additional things thrown into the box that finish it off, a light bulb insert, something like that, those are all doable. What will probably happen with those other customized situations is we will either build versions of the app or versions of the API that are specifically targeted towards that workflow, so we know how much demand it is, and it also goes through that workflow inside of our factory. Because this is the thing, whenever we add another color inside of the app, it is not a software update. It is an entire production line update of like, okay, we need to have this many machines loaded up with this color in order to support the demand. We need to make sure everybody knows the difference between light gray and regular gray, and so on and so forth, and these kind of things. So it is an ongoing challenge to add more factory to the factory by adding in these other features. So that is that situation. How fast do items ship? They ship in 3 to 5 business days currently. Right now, all of them have been going under 5. At Christmas, we'll probably push up against that. It is possible during the Christmas season, our lead times may need to extend. And we will inform and communicate to y'all. We have big red banners that can pop across the top of the apps to let y'all know. And of course, we have your email address when you sign up for the thing. So we let everybody know if for some reason our capacity gets behind. We're doing all we can to make sure that that does not occur, because there's nothing worse than pulling your punch because your supplier is behind during Christmas. Believe me, I know. But yes, we have all that stuff covered, so we should be good. Okay, materials available, PLA. Other materials coming someday. We'll talk about that at a different time. Currently, what you see inside the app is what you get. International shipping, got that covered. Where can I find 3D models to sell? If you're new, make sure you're licensing them appropriately. Patreon is a good place to get a commercial license to 3D models that can be used and sold. You can also reach out to designers directly for permissions and licenses. You can also hire a designer on like Fiverr to create new models for you. There are also a lot of just product creation softwares out there, such as like Lithophane Maker, CookieCAD, those kind of things. Those are all very good options. Very good options. Those are all very good options. Okay, let's see here. What machines do you use? The Slant 3D farm uses our own internal machines, Slant box machines that allow us to have a sustainable print farm business, because off-the-shelf machines do not allow that. They're a very high-risk way of building a print farm. But yeah, our machines are equivalent to a Prusa machine in like quality and that kind of stuff. So that's a reference if you're looking for a comparison and that kind of thing. And right now, yeah, like Prusa and Bamboo and all the rest of them are pretty much the same. Pretty much all of them kind of blend together as far as print quality. Yeah, so that's where they're sitting right now. Okay, can we adjust print settings? No. No, the print settings are 0.2 layer height with a 25% infill. That covers the vast majority of folks. We will try to introduce print setting control to a limited degree in the future. But again, another feature messes with production. We're dealing with physical stuff. It's not a software update. We don't get to add a button and then just be like, ooh, the button clicks, we're good to go. It's much more difficult to build out a factory to support that feature and all the variation that it creates. You increase infill. Well, now suddenly your big old thick block is warping, which means that now we can't possibly be successful with the part. Those kind of things. Okay. Let's see. What else? The Etsy or Shopify. I don't know. Dealer's choice. The Shopify gives you really good tools for advertising control. Etsy has really good kind of native uncontrollable advertising tools, as in you give them some money and they figure out how to spend it. Shopify, you have to understand like Facebook ads. There's some apps coming out where it's like you give them some money and they'll go spend it and get you some sales. But I don't know them well enough. So as far as which platform sells better, I don't know. The Shopify gives you more control, for sure. And it's outside of ecosystem. You have the entire internet rather than just Etsy. So dealer's choice. What is correct for your business? Okay. Do all my orders have to go to Slant 3D? No. You match us to particular product listings and in fact particular SKUs in that product listing. So if you have a product that's like neon glowy gold, black and white, you could connect us to black and white, and then if an order comes through for black and white, we print and ship that order for you. But if neon blue, purple, gold is ordered, then it would go to you and you would print and ship those orders. Or if you want to restrict us and say, I only want you to do the white, well, then just give us the white. It's completely controlled by you, and at any time you're able to flip a big old master switch in either one of the apps and just turn us off. If you're just like, no, that's not working right, or something along those lines. So that is all doable. Let's see. Any other FAQs? Covered the ones that people have asked. I'm trying to think if there's any other like gotchas. Size constraints are inside the app. That's all controlled. Settings, colors, setup, costs, international shipping. That should cover it all, guys. Hopefully that's helpful. Let us know if there's any other questions that you have down in the comments of this video, and we can get those covered. But beyond that, have a great day, everybody.